I didn't so much get Shakespeare wisdom. A lot of the stuff I learned is kind of relevant to acting in general. Something that Nick Heitner was big on with the mechanicals was don't try to be funny, which I think we've all heard at drama school. When you're doing a comedy character, don't try and be funny, which in my head is like when you're doing a funny bit, if you're trying to be funny, it's not funny. That's like kind of how I understood it. But he means it in like a literal sense. Like as a mechanical, obviously we kind of were doing some of the more comedy things, and we did that. That was our kind of role in Midsummer Stream. And that kind of makes you think as an actor, okay, cool, I need to be as funny as possible at all times because I'm the funny character. But he says that that is kind of exhausting as an audience. He likes, rather than having an audience chuckle for 10 minutes, like, oh, it's kind of funny here and a bit funny here, that gets exhausting. They feel like they owe you the chuckles because you're constantly putting in gags and gags and gags, and it kind of, that's not sustainable after 2.5 hours. So he likes to take things out that are funny, take that bit out, take that out, which makes this bit hilarious. So rather than having 2.5 hours of people chuckling away, that he likes it, that it's like, take this bit out, make this a straight bit of acting, and then this bit's really funny. So it's like you're not exhausting your audience. They don't want to be clapping for 2.5 hours and laughing because it's not sustainable. So basically, don't try to be funny is literally take out some of the funniness in order to make the other bits funnier, which kind of makes sense, but it's like something that you can take to other like comic roles, that you don't have to always be like the funny one. You're okay to take things out in order to make, you know, other people and other bits even funnier. I would say another thing that I learned from my co-stars or from other actors is that you deserve to be there. I think I've like not struggled, but like being a grad and starting super early, I sometimes feel like I'm like having to tell everyone I'm a graduate and, you know, all these things, but it's like people tell you who have been in the industry for 10, 20 years that you're here because you're meant to be here and you don't need to apologize for that. So just own your space and like, yes, it's okay to acknowledge that you're like new in the industry, but it's you're there because you're meant to be there.
Hello, we hope you're enjoying today's episode of the Actors Actuality podcast. We just want to take a quick moment to talk to you about the Actors Actuality newsletter.
The Actors Actuality newsletter comes out twice a week, Monday and Friday. Subscribe below.
We spent like a full day shooting one scene, and I'd never really experienced that. Like a lot of my stuff had been sort of indie stuff, where it's just like, right, that's done, let's move on. We've got like another 8 scenes to do today. And so having that time, kind of like sitting there and going through and going, okay, so we've got this time. And it meant that the morning was entirely wide shots. And I just remember like sitting there going, I am messing this up so badly. I'm doing such a bad job. Oh my God. And I got so in my own head about it because we were in Harrenhal. And we were in this huge set with so much detail and so much stuff. And then you've got the costume, which is really heavy. Like no wonder people don't gesture that much in that show because it's like, and I had the wig on. I'd never worn a wig before. And like I had a beard that I hate having facial hair. So I was like, oh, I've got a beard for this. I don't like having a beard. How does it look? And like, you know, you start worrying about 1,000,001 things. And then I remember I went and we had lunch, and I went back to my trailer and I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was just like, you can do this. Stop messing around. Get out of your own head. And then the afternoon went miles better. And then I was only on it like sort of small parts after that. But it was just like, oh no, this is like, I then remembered that this is immensely fun. And like our job is amazing. And that I've actually got the job. I don't need to worry beyond that now. I've got the job. So let's actually be creative and like, you know, enjoy it. But there is still that sort of, that pressure. That pressure there, but I think that it comes from putting that pressure on yourself rather than anything that anyone else is trying to do. Like I've never really come across anyone who's tried to do that to me. It's always been self-inflicted. thing. So I think that it's just important to show up and kind of go like, all right, okay, I know what I'm doing. This is going to be fine. No one's like, no one's going to torture you or anything like that. And like, everyone was really friendly and really lovely. And it was honestly one of the nicer sets I've been on, because it was, and you wouldn't normally expect that for such a machine, but it was a really lovely set. And so like once you relax and you go, okay, I can do this, I think that giving yourself permission and going, I can do this is a really important thing. Or at least it was for me on that job. But yeah, it was just really exciting once you get over the enormity of it.
I guess it's just that mindset shift of like, even though the sets are far larger and the caliber of everything that's going on is extreme, it's still the job that you know how to do and have been doing for many years. And I guess it's just like you did in your trailer, like flicking that switch, going, no, I can do this and I can enjoy this, and I've done it before. It just happens to be grander, but the job itself is the same, and I can do that, and then the fun comes out of it. So that's really encouraging to hear, I think. Yeah.
You have a list of evidence that you've done this before.
Yeah.
Rely on that. Use that. You mentioned earlier about a read through, and then you shot. I think it was like you spent the whole morning doing one scene. Did you get any rehearsal time, or was it straight into shooting?
No, you do get rehearsal time. You always get like a little bit of a rehearsal, but different, like, and like they want to get into the right space and the right sort of place, and like the directors, like what was difficult about that was that the writer's strike had just come in. And so I think that there was just like, I think that people were feeling the pressure of that, but it still ran like any other set, but it was just bigger. It was just bigger, and you spent a full day on one scene. That was all it was. So, but in terms of doing the job is exactly the same as you said. It's just like I've still got to do my preparation. I've still got to do my stuff the way that I would. But it's just, yeah. And I think, you know what, in terms of like research and stuff, it was the easiest job I've ever done. It was the easiest job because they've got like the Ice and Fire wiki page and stuff like that. You can literally search your character, and like they'll give you like mountains of information about the world and about all of this stuff. And so even though I'd watched the show, I was like, right, okay, so now I need to know more about it. I need to know like how far it is to travel from place to place, all this kind of stuff. Because I wanted that to sort of impact maybe the mood, because like how far have you traveled to get to the place to then have the meeting? And I was like, okay, so if I've been on horseback for that long, I'd be like, oh god, I'm a bit miffed about this, like whatever. That's a really basic way of looking at it. But I think that it was really easy to research, because people like, they put so much info up online about it. But yeah, the fan reaction that I had was really lovely as well. And it was just this amazing experience. Like I really loved it all, and I was absolutely gutted that I got, like, spoiler, but I got killed off. And I was just like, oh, I would have loved to have been a part of this for just a little bit longer, and I would have loved to have done more scenes with it, because I was just like, I loved that character, and I loved working with those people, like getting to watch people like Matt Smith and Simon Russell Beale up close. Like, oh, it was really cool. It was really like you're watching people who they know exactly what they're doing, and it was just class. It was class.
You had a pretty cool death though, getting beheaded by Matt Smith with that scene. Again, spoilers, but that was a pretty cool death.
I got the full Game of Thrones
that was
experience, you know. Yeah, it was wicked. It was wicked. Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Good.
It's class.
So some people leave drama school with an agent, some people don't. You didn't leave drama school with an agent. What avenues did you use to look for acting work? You talked about Instagram. What else did you do to try and sustain yourself creatively and look for acting jobs?
Yeah, I mean, it was mainly Instagram. Honestly, it was that one job on Instagram. It wasn't like I was hunting or doing it. It kind of just came up on my feed and did it. I felt, to be honest, a lot of it was luck. Right place, right time. I refreshed my page at the right point. But then obviously not having an agent meant that was my only thing. So I had to make the most of it. I had to meet every single person that was responsible for the casting process, everyone that helped, from like the dramaturgs to the writer themselves, all the directors. I had to meet everyone, from the people that even read the script once and just gave a bit of feedback because it's their friend that wrote it. Because I knew that for me to get anywhere, it had to be through the people I met, not from what I see. Because I'm not proactive enough, which is horrible to say, but I'm not good at being proactive and finding these jobs and spending hours a day hunting for these things on all sorts of platforms. It was the meeting people that was important. So I knew that if I could get myself in front of someone, I'd find a way that I'd always leave with their email or their number or their Instagram, and then I'd chase them up, or I'd then follow the things they're doing. And if they're then doing another creative thing, I'll make sure I'm there to watch it. And I don't really enjoy watching theatre. Okay. It sounds really strange because I love being in theatre, but I can switch off really quick. And watching a play, I find really difficult. But I'd go watch plays just to kind of support and have a reason to talk to these people again. It's very selfish now I look at it. But yeah, so the avenue I went down that wasn't Instagram or Spotlight was the genuine meeting one person who could then try and introduce me to someone else. It's the networking side of it, which is probably the hardest part of it. But it's fun.
I think the word networking always sends a shiver down my spine. The thought of having to be social. Is there something in particular you've learned in the last 2 years from networking, or is there a particular avenue you explore when you're networking with someone?
Absolutely. It sounds really strange, but so my technique when networking, and I know we'll go into this later, like fringe stuff, but all like scratch nights that I've done, all of that is networking. Yes, I'm performing, but it's networking. And it's always the same small talk. You come out, you chat, you buy a beer at the bar, and it's, which piece did you write? Or, well done, you were really great. Oh, thank you for watching. Who do you know in the cast? Like these really small, awkward conversations. You're never going to get to know someone. It's just that passing of them saying well done, you saying thank you. But my approach is I like to pretend like they're a friend I haven't seen in a really long time, to the point where we've got so much to catch up on. So I'm not going up and being like, hi, how are you? I'm Haydn. It's like, hi, how are you? Yeah, I'm Haydn. Just in case you forgot. Obviously, you don't say that, but just like, I'm Haydn. And then, so what are you doing lately? And then the conversation becomes a lot more, you become a lot more personable. The conversation becomes a lot more personal because you're wanting to like catch up with them, in essence. It sounds really odd, but seriously, try it. Like, it works, I promise.
That's a great technique.
Yeah,
I'm going to use that. I
Yeah.
feel like it's a good way of bypassing that. Because I think networking can, in a way, like you say, it can feel a bit awkward, and it's like there's almost this pressure to introduce yourself and explain who you are and why you're talking to them, and there's a name tag if you forget, and like there's a lot of awkwardness. Whereas I see what you mean. If it's just like being personal, being like, I'm interested to catch up with who you are and what's going on, you'll naturally form those connections. And yeah, that's really useful. Thank you. You mentioned you attended Drama Centre. Is your process still grounded in what you learned during your 3 years there, or is it changed and developed into something different? And how do you reckon it's changed and developed?
My process is completely nuts in the sense of it changes all the time. I maybe that is my process in the sense that it's just finding what's right in the moment for something. I have maybe there was some contention there when I was at drama school in the sense of I didn't really like and don't really like someone telling me that's the way something needs to be done. and saying like, this is how you act. Because, you know, for example, Drama Centre, the reason, so it's known for being a method school. Now, a method school, obviously, that doesn't mean that you're running around pretending to be some kind of animal to get this character right all the time. It doesn't mean you're playing a baker, so you go and work in the shops, you know, and learn to bake and spend 24 hours a day doing it. But what it means is it has this method called character analysis. It sort of combines movement and like it feels a bit sciencey, to be honest. If you didn't know anything about it, you'd think you were in a science class. The way you're kind of noting things down. Now, that doesn't work with how I act. I need to kind of get up and just feel it out, make mistakes, figure it out. And I had a problem with the fact that there was so much of that it felt like someone was saying, if you cannot do this, if you don't click with this, you are not a good actor. Because I'm thinking, and everyone, it felt to me like everyone around me, there was only 15 in our year group, so it was quite small. I felt like everyone was just buzzing about it. And everything the teachers said, they were like, yeah, that's right. Oh, absolutely. I'm like, what are you basing this off? This is the only drama school you've ever been to. If I go next door to this drama school, they're going to be teaching a completely different thing. This is the only drama school that has this method because it created it. So it's almost like they're trying to say to you, and this is what's going through my head at the time, right? They're trying to say to you, if you can't do this, you cannot act at all. And all the rest of the drama schools can't act. That's not true. It's just, they're actually, what they're doing is trying to offer you tools, right? And you take it, you leave it. You work better with some things, you don't with others. And that is what I found at drama school. As a person who needed to stand up and get moving around in a space, sometimes go and shut myself in a rehearsal space and say lines in a ridiculous way until it suddenly clicks. You know, whatever works, that's great. I've got that. That's actually something that I find natural for me. However, sitting still and observing, which we're all observing all the time, however, but making a conscious effort to do it is something I struggled with. And later on, it started to click a bit. But I think that was a big lesson I learned from drama school, that if you feel like someone's telling you this is how you should do something because they do it, don't take it like that. Take it as, I'll play the game, be smart, nod along and everything, but take what you want from something. Because at the end of the day, it's anything creative. You approach it how you're going to approach it. Because if you don't, it's not really creative anymore. If you don't approach it with your own heart and your own kind of soul, then you're just copying.
What benefits does practicing and gaining a qualification in stage combat have for a graduating actor?
Good question. I think when people first approach stage combat, and I know I did, so this is not a critique of people, or they think sword fighting and warriors and soldiers, and you know they think Game of Thrones, those kind of big epic productions. But I think actually, and I say this in class, is it's so important for the extremes of physical storytelling. I've done productions where there's one moment of combat, there's a punch or a slap, or someone grabs someone by the throat or hair or whatever it might be. And I've been in productions where you've had, you know, half the production is sword fighting. Both equally valid, but I think for a young actor's training, it's learning how to approach those extremes of physical storytelling. And they exist in other forms too. So there's a huge rise in the world of intimacy at the moment, which is so tightly linked to the world of combat. In fact, a lot of fight directors are training or performing as intimacy coordinators, directors now as well. But it's understanding physical connection. It's understanding one's relationship to another in the space. And that's not always swinging the sword around. That can be as simple as making contact with someone that is not, that one character is not necessarily offering to another. And that for me falls in that world. So to be a storyteller, and that's what all actors are, in my opinion, with storytellers, and to be a comprehensive storyteller, having that training and understanding of how to approach those elements of stories, be it violence, be it intimacy, or somewhere in between, I think is a really key skill to have. Now, that doesn't mean if one doesn't have stage combat training that this stuff isn't accessible. It is. And I think with a good fight director, a good support team, and that's often my job as a fight director, is working with those without a huge amount of experience. But more often than not, especially young actors, if you've got that experience already, and if you're going into a rehearsal room or audition, but let's say post getting the job, you're into a rehearsal room with an understanding or a common language with the fight director or the rest of the cast, it's always going to be a benefit. And I think it's really important that, and drama schools do, I think it's really important that they encourage that training and that continuous training, because it's a competitive industry, I'm sure you guys know, and having more strings to your bow is always a benefit. And for some, that might be an instrument, or they sing, or they have a dance skill, or physical theatre skill, or whatever it might be. But for me, and I hope other actors too, that can be the fight stuff. That could be the stage combat. And my own career is in part testament to that. The fact that I've got jobs because of that background. No, I've granted I've taken it to an extreme. I've trained in it as an additional skill set. Like I said, I'm a certified instructor with the British Academy of Dramatic Combat. So I also teach this, but it does, I think, facilitate or allow me to approach that work with a degree of confidence. And in a rehearsal room, confidence can go a long way. Slightly fake it till you make it a little bit element. You know, if you feel you can attack something with gusto and confidence, it's always going to produce, well, it should produce a slightly more productive environment to rehearse in, right?
We're taking a quick pause from today's episode to talk about our collaborators for this season, Actor and their Pay What You Can scheme.
Actor have kindly given us a special Actors Actuality exclusive link for you guys to increase your chance of being selected for their Pay What You Can scheme. Whether you're looking for headshots, voice, song, or monologue reel, Actors Pay What You Can initiative means you'll get the same quality and care as a full price reel, but for a price that you can afford.
Of course, the Pay What You Can scheme is very popular, so by using our link, you'll be being referred by us, giving yourself an increased chance of being selected for the scheme, plus you'll be giving us a bit of a kickback, which always helps.
I actually got my first ever headshots with Actor back in 2021 when I was a young boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's it, to be honest. That's all I had to say. Check out their link in the description. It's a great initiative.
It's funny, isn't it? Because in acting, you feel like you're out of control. Like it's as if everybody else has control over your future. And I think that that's a very unhealthy way to think. You've got to control the things you can and let go of the things you can't. So goal setting can be really useful because you can have an idea in your mind of where you want to get to, and you can have a very firm idea of that. Some people don't deal well with goal setting, partly because they're afraid of the failure. So they're thinking, I'll never get there, so I'm not going to set that goal. And in doing so, they sometimes end up with a kind of a mushy, wishy-washy, sort of meandering way towards hopefully getting something. Others just strike it lucky and they land a dream job that they never thought they were ever going to get, and they're on their way. But that is luck. I mean, a lot of this is down to luck. However, if you set a goal, you're more likely to reach it than you would if you never set the goal in the first place. So if you set yourself a standard, and if you set yourself an ideal target, and you think to yourself, right, okay, that is where I want to get to by such a date. Now, again, as I said to you before, sometimes you've got to let go of the things you can't control. So you're doing it knowing that there are so many other factors that come into play, but you do it anyway. And by doing it anyway, what you then can do is create an action plan of the things you know you can do. So if you want to be in a hit Netflix show in 3 years' time, you need to start thinking about all of the actions you need to take in order to reach that goal. So who do you need to speak to? Who do you need to connect with? What kind of roles do you need to do which lead up to that point? What kind of casting workshops can you go to? Where do you invest your very, very precious pennies in order to be seen and heard by the right people? Because there's not a lot of money while you're on your way there, but sometimes a few £100 in the room with the right casting director and the right people is worth every penny, everything. What kind of look at the headshots that the actors have that are in the kind of jobs that you want and think, who took those pictures? What kind of style are they? What's the tone? And get your photos done by that photographer. What kind of listen to interviews, all that kind of stuff. And so you're listening to these actors speak about their life, their career, listen to the way they do it, listen to what they did. Some of that stuff you can adopt, you can do as well. What actions do you glean from that you can do? For me, setting goals is really important. It means that you're always going to be thinking of, right, have I checked in with my portfolio? Are my monologues and my songs still relevant? Do they still suit me? I'm older now. I look different now. Oh, I can do this now. What monologues do I need? What new things do I need to discover to make sure that I'm armed with all of the right resources to get that role that I'm aiming for in 3 years' time? And you just keep going. It's very easy to slip and get into this victim mentality where it's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else's fault. It's not yours. Everybody else's fault. So many actors do that, and it's the worst place to be because, and I have sympathy for it to a degree because it's just horrible and it's so easy to slip down into that. But I do get to a point where I go, well, it's your life, it's your career. What are you going to do about it? There's only you that can do whatever it takes to get there. And by setting the goal, even if you never get that hit show on Netflix in 3 years' time, you will have created so many other opportunities for yourself along the way by doing the things you're doing.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Actors Actuality podcast. You can find all our important links in the description below,
such as Instagram, website, and the all-important affiliate pay-what-you-can actor link.